As we continue the national statements, I would like to remind distinguished speakers of the actions in place to ensure effective time management. There is a 3-minute time limit for statements during the high-level segment. Statements should be as concise as possible, noting that full text of the official statements will be made available on the UNFCCC website. And finally, please note that heads of state or government who are not in the plenary at the time for delivery of their statements will be scheduled to speak at the end of all statements of the same category. Dear distinguished heads of state and government, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, let us begin. Please take your seat. It is my pleasure to welcome Her Excellency Ms. Shaina Ansari Hamadani, Vice President of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
In the name of God, Mr. Chairman, Executive Secretary, honorable leaders and representatives, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to express my gratitude to the government and the people of Azerbaijan for hosting COP29, which would provide an opportunity for inclusive actions with the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities to address global crises and challenges arising from climate change. The national sovereignty and priorities are key to address the global climate change challenges and to transform the global energy system. The continue should have equal access to the technologies, knowledge, investment and nuclear energy in order to increase the share of clean and renewable energy for achieving this goal. Therefore, illegal unilateral sanctions should not impede the efforts of member states in their strives. The illegal unilateral sanctions limits the ability of member countries to access and utilize global financial resources and to develop technology-based equipment. Until these sanctions are completely lifted, expecting adherence to environmental objectives of the Convention is unjustified and irrational. Therefore, I call upon all the member states to condemn these political measures and act on removing these restrictions. Ladies and gentlemen, Iran has taken numerous measures to address climate change threats with further initiatives underway. These include the issuance of general policies related to climate change management and green economy expansion by the highest authority in our country, as well as the inclusion of a national climate change management plan in the country's 7th five-year development plan. Additionally, implementing projects such as converting fossil fuel-based power plants to combined cycle power plants, reducing emissions in the oil and gas industry, expanding renewable solar and nuclear energy, and other similar actions are further effective steps we have taken. Mr. Chairman, we, the member states of the United Nations, have gathered here to address environmental challenges on our planet and to work together to reduce human suffering. But how can we achieve this goal when, in the past year alone, more than 43,000 people, more than half of whom were women, children, and infants, have been killed by the occupying Zionist regime? This is in addition to the recent casualties resulting from the regime's brutal attacks? Who can witness the environmental destruction in the occupied territories and deny its impact on regional and trans-regional climate change? The silence of Western countries maintained by adhering to double standards and selective policies is deeply troubling. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I would like to emphasize that our shared environment is a common bond and precious heritage for all of us. We hope that international community, free from political issues, will stand together, exchange knowledge, transfer technology, and facilitate accessing financial resources without discrimination, and fully lift unilateral sanctions against countries, particularly the Islamic Republic of Iran. However, we cannot forget the fact that the current climate situation of the world is the result of the industrial policies of few developed countries, and developing states shall not be deprived of their right to development because of what others have done. Once again, we emphasize that if this conference should intend to prove its goodwill in striving for a better future for all, while persisting on avoiding double standards to achieve meaningful actions by all countries to achieve these goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome now His Excellency Mr. Joseph Ondaut Ber, Vice President of Gabon. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Monsieur le Président de la République, Monsieur le Secrétaire général de l'Organisation des Nations Unies, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, honorables délégués, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'honneur m'échoit de m'exprimer ici par délégation de Son Excellence, le général de brigade, le vice-secrétaire Nguema, président de la transition, président de la République, chef de l'État, dont l'agenda interne ne lui a pas permis de prendre personnellement part à ce sommet d'importance. Veuillez accepter, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, ces regrets bien sincères et ses vœux de plein succès aux présentes assises. C'est autant l'occasion de m'acquitter d'ores et déjà d'une dette, c'est de présenter au nom de la République gabonaise et en mon nom personnel les plus vifs remerciements à son Excellence, Monsieur Ilham Aliyev, président de la République d'Azerbaïdjan, ainsi qu'au peuple azerbaïdjanais pour l'accueil particulièrement chaleureux et la bienveillante attention dont ma délégation et moi-même ne cessons de bénéficier depuis notre arrivée. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, au moment où nous nous réunissons à Bakou, l'humanité continue de faire face à des défis environnementaux sans précédent. En effet, la perte de la biodiversité s'accélère avec près de 70% des populations d'animaux sauvages qui ont disparu. Les dérèglements climatiques se poursuivent avec des records de température en constante augmentation et cette année, qui a connu l'été le plus chaud, ne saurait nous démentir. Les pollutions se multiplient à travers le monde, particulièrement par les plastiques qui représentent plus de 85% des déchets marins. Ce contexte sans précédent touche toutes les régions du monde sans exclusion. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, le multilatéralisme est l'ultime arme que nous possédons dans cette guerre encore longue et à l'issue incertaine. Les générations passées ont souvent péché par méconnaissance. Aujourd'hui, nous avons la connaissance, disposons de stratégies et des moyens. Et les solutions sont bien entre nos mains sur le plan technologique, avec notamment le déploiement des énergies renouvelables et l'agroécologie. Sur le plan écologique, avec les solutions fondées sur la nature à travers le rôle fondamental joué par nos forêts et nos océans. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, sur le plan financier, malgré une légère baisse en 2022, la richesse mondiale continuera d'augmenter lors des 3 à 5 prochaines années. Fort de tout cela, nous pouvons avoir droit à l'échec.
We cannot afford to fail, therefore. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Gabonese population is suffering from an increase in sea levels and flooding, rainfall increases. All of this has a lasting effect on the quality of life of our people and exacerbates the conflict between man and nature. And we continue to fight for both. That is why our forestry has remained stable, and we've spared no effort to have major land and marine protected areas. Today, I reassert the profound commitment of my country and our people
une nouvelle constitution qui consacre, je cite, l'intérêt profond aux enjeux écologiques, environnementaux, le changement climatique et la protection des écosystèmes. Fin de citation. Cela démontre encore une fois que nos discours devant la communauté internationale sont systématiquement corrélés à une réalité nationale. Toutefois, le Gabon, comme beaucoup d'autres pays en développement, ne pourra continuer de maintenir un tel niveau d'engagement si la solidarité internationale ne se matérialise pas. La survie de la planète dépend autant de nos écosystèmes que du respect des engagements des pays dont la responsabilité historique est engagée. La pérennité de notre action est indéniablement conditionnée par une architecture financière mondiale plus ambitieuse. Cela passe notamment par la réforme profonde du système international, par une économie mondiale plus verte, l'innovation et la flexibilité dans le mécanisme de financement de l'action climatique, notamment à travers la dette, la prise en compte du capital naturel, sans la notation souveraine de nos États, la définition et le respect d'un nouvel objectif financier mondial, ambitieux et équitable. Excellence. Mesdames et messieurs, la crise climatique exige une action collective fondée sur la confiance, l'équité et une responsabilité partagée. C'est donc l'intime conviction que nous serons tous ensemble dépasser nos intérêts individuels pour donner à l'humanité, une fois encore, la possibilité de démontrer sa grandeur face aux crises mondiales. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure now to welcome His Highness Sheikh Sabah Khaled Al-Hamad and Al-Sabah, Crown Prince of Kuwait. Your Highness, you have the floor.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فخامة الرئيس إلهام حيدر أوغلو علييف رئيس جمهورية أذربيجان الصديقة، معالي السيد أنطونيو غوتيريش الأمين العام للأمم المتحدة، أصحاب الفخامة والسمو والمعالي، الحضور الكرام، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسرني بداية أن أنقل لكم تحيات حضرة صاحب السمو أمير دولة الكويت الشيخ مشعل الأحمد جابر الصباح حفظه الله ورعاه، وتمنيات سموه للتوفيق والنجاح لهذا المؤتمر الهام. كما يسعدني أن أعرب عن شكري وتقديري لجمهورية أذربيجان الصديقة على كرم الضيافة وحسن التنظيم. السيد الرئيس، لا شك في أن ظاهرة تغير المناخ أصبحت حادثا عالميا وتشكل تهديدا للعديد من الدول ومنها دولة الكويت التي أصبحت آثار تغير المناخ فيها ملموسة ومتسارعة.
Kuwait is one of them. Indeed, the effects of climate change are showing up in more and more blatant ways, in tangible and accelerated ways. We're seeing a rise in temperature and dust storms and because of the lack of rain. And these are all phenomena that are impacting the daily lives of our people. And it is in this perspective that Kuwait is aiming for environmental sustainability, and we will be keeping all our commitments under all our agreements, including Kyoto. And through our projects at the national level, this is guaranteed. And within the framework of the Paris Agreement, we will be supporting the two initiatives that they call for truce. We invite developed countries to abide by their commitments under the Framework Convention and to offer financial and technical support to LDCs and developing countries, and to help them to develop their capacity. This is essential to help them to tackle the effects of climate change and to also implement their national determined contributions. We have the Arab Economic Development Fund managed by Kuwait, and we will spare no effort to support developing countries and support projects to tackle climate change. And in this regard, we have granted over 100 projects, financed over 100 projects, and by 2050 we will be aligning our economic growth based on a net zero target, and we will step up our resilience to climate change and try to achieve net zero by 2060. This will be through several strategic projects to reduce carbon in all sectors, and we also will be implementing clean energy. We also have the ambition of using 50% of solar energy by 2050 in the electricity sector. And we also are planning to have low carbon energies and technology implemented and to promote sustainable energy. Our objective is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 80% and to do so by 2040. It is our hope that our efforts, along with other countries, will help us all achieve a prosperous future that will be for the benefit of each and every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Highness. It is my pleasure to welcome His Eminence Cardinal Pietro Parolin, Secretary of State of the Holy See. Your Eminence, you have the floor.
Madam President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Pope Francis, I extend cordial greetings to all of you and wish to assure you of his closeness, support and encouragement so that COP29 may succeed in demonstrating that there is an international community ready to look beyond the particularism and to place at the center the good of humanity and our common home, which God has entrusted to our care and responsibility. Efforts should be made in particular to find solutions that do not further undermine the development and adaptive capacity of many countries that are already burdened with crippling economic debt. Indeed, ecological debt and foreign debt are two sides of the same coin, mortgaging the future. And I would like to reiterate an appeal that Pope Francis made in view of the ordinary jubilee of the year 2025, asking the more affluent nations that they may acknowledge the gravity of so many of their past decisions and determined to forgive the debts of countries that will never be able to repay them. More than a question of generosity, this is a matter of justice. It is made all the more serious today by a new form of injustice, which we increasingly recognize, namely that a true ecological debt exists, particularly between the global north and south, connected to commercial imbalances which affects this over long periods of time. Therefore, use of natural resources by certain countries over long periods of time. Therefore, it is essential to seek a new international financial architecture that is human-centered, bold, creative, and based on the principles of equity, justice, and solidarity. A financial architecture that can truly ensure for all countries especially the poorest and those most vulnerable, to an ambitious agreement that promotes initiatives and processes aimed at truly inclusive development, we must all take responsibility for safeguarding not only our own future, but that of all. I reiterate the dedication and support of the Holy See, especially in the field of integral ecology education and in raising awareness of the environmental as a human and social problem on any number of levels. Thank you. Any number of levels. Thank you.
And it is my pleasure now to welcome His Excellency Mr. Andrej Plenković, Prime Minister of Croatia. It is my pleasure now to welcome His Excellency Mr. Andrej Plenković, Prime Minister of Croatia. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to stand before you today to address one of the most pressing issues of our time, the urgent need for global action against climate change. Our future depends on how boldly we act today. Croatia is committed to decarbonizing its energy system and accelerating its green transition. With the International Energy Agency warning of an imminent peak in fossil fuels, shifting away from them is not only climate-wise, but an economic necessity. We are doing our part by supporting our neighbors, starting with Bosnia and Herzegovina, to boost climate resilience and strengthen mitigation. Our achievements and investments in renewable energy reflect our dedication. In 2022, renewables made up 29.5% of our energy consumption, a figure that continues to grow. With projects like green hydrogen and geothermal development, we aim for 42.5% renewables by 2030. To manage intermittency sustainability, investment in pumped storage hydropower is crucial, and Croatia has strong potential in this area. Our efforts show that economic growth and environmental responsibility can coexist. Croatia has decoupled its strong growth from CO2 emissions, maintaining a carbon footprint well below the EU average. We are committed to protecting our environment and biodiversity, working to safeguard 30% of the Adriatic Sea under the Global Biodiversity Framework. We extend our energy commitment internationally, exemplified by the Clean Energy for EU Islands initiative launched during our EU Council presidency. We are advancing cutting-edge technology that transforms plastic, textiles, sludge and non-recyclable biogenic waste into zero-emission hydrogen. This innovation tackles pollution and energy excess while reducing methane emissions. Another crucial area in addressing climate change and adapting it to its impacts is improving energy efficiency in housing. Residential energy use remains a major source of greenhouse emissions and energy consumption, requiring much greater efforts. At COP29, financial considerations are critical, but our most valuable resource is time. We must act now. Croatia is pushing for carbon neutrality, expediting solar and wind energy deployment with an environmental vulnerability map and turning commitments into tangible action. Sustainable development must integrate environmental, social and economic dimensions. We rank 8th among 193 UN countries for sustainable development goals, achieving 3.6 GDP growth and proving that green growth is possible. We are embedding sustainability into our financial frameworks to drive our green and digital transition. At this COP, setting an inclusive climate finance target that addresses developing countries' needs and attracts investments is vital. Over the past year, catastrophic floods in Spain, Bosnia and Herzegovina, as well as in southern Croatia, have shown the devastating impact of rising temperatures. The Mediterranean, one of the most vulnerable regions, calls for urgent action. We welcome the establishment of a dedicated Mediterranean portfolio in the upcoming European Commission, led by Croatian Commissioner Madame Šuica, to protect our people, economies and natural habitats. Croatia stands committed to a global vision of a sustainable, resilient future. Together, we must transform our ambitions into reality for the generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And it is my pleasure now to welcome His Excellency Mr. Petr Fiala, Prime Minister. And it is my pleasure now to welcome His Excellency Mr. Petr Fiala, Prime Minister of Czechia. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank the President and people of Azerbaijan for hosting this important conference. Climate change is a serious danger for all of us. We see its devastating impact everywhere in the world. There are floods in Europe, hurricanes in America, landslides in Asia, and drought in Africa. We all know the risks, but we also know else has made some good progress. Since 1990, our carbon dioxide emissions are down by more than a third. Our carbon dioxide emissions are down by, and we push for renewables and nuclear power to the core. We will discontinue coal, and we push for renewables and nuclear power. As I said in Dubai last year, I strongly believe that nuclear power is essential to meet climate goals. It gives me hope that nuclear energy is more and more popular around the world. We also see development in new technologies. Czech Republic has 50 years of experience with nuclear power. We are ready to assist any country that wants to use it in the future. This includes SMRs or traditional technology. Nuclear power has many benefits. It produces extremely clean energy. It is also very safe with the help of skilled experts and strong international standards. Yes, international cooperation, global action and innovative solutions are key to solve this crisis. But only reduction of effects is not enough. We also need to focus on adaptation. We must reconsider our priorities in many ways. We must help each other to change our countryside and infrastructure to manage weather extremes. In everything we do, our cooperation must be practical. When I look at the history of global goals, I see many fails. In many areas and regions, it is extremely difficult to fulfill the promises made. It is not likely that we will have more success with even stronger targets. We need to agree on reliable consensus. It must be ambitious and realistic. This is more important than bombastic declarations which are then impossible to deliver. It is good that the European Union wants to lead the way, but others must follow to make a real difference. That is why I really appreciate the commitment of major economic powers of the world. I am glad that they set good examples. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic of this conference is noble and necessary. We face hardships, but we must not give up. My country, the Czech Republic, is ready to do its part in cooperation with the international community to build and keep peace, to prevent suffering, and to increase chances for good life for all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Mustafa Kemal Madbouli, Prime Minister of Egypt. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
أصحاب الفخامة والسعادة قادة الدول والحكومات معالي السادة الوزراء السيدات والسادة الحضور
Heads of state government, ministers, ladies and gentlemen, may I begin by conveying to you greetings from His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the President of Egypt, who entrusted me with representing him here, giving me the honor of representing Egypt at this COP. And I would like to avail myself of this opportunity to greet His Excellency President Al-Hamad, the President of Azerbaijan, and I would like to wish our proceedings every success. And I'm confident we will achieve positive and constructive results at the end of this conference. The holding of this conference is marked by grave events which are deeply troubling, and major challenges which have led to loss of life and which pose huge difficulties. And Egypt calls for concentration on implementation in dealing with the climate crisis and catching up the delays in dispensing finance for loss and damage, especially countries that are deprived of technology and knowledge and who need capacity development in order to avoid loss of human life. Egypt has unstintingly called for strengthening the principle of solidarity and consensus and negotiation that take into account the differences among countries and disparities, as recalled in the Paris Agreement. Moreover, we have launched the Sharm el-Sheikh platform. This conference is an additional opportunity now to strengthen efforts for implementation pursuant to the Paris Agreement and